Actually, I just turned my audio on. Apologize for that. My audio was not even on. So I was saying before that our our show is broadcast live 3 days a week at Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. I can't believe I forgot to turn my audio on. So I apologize for that. If you want to join the live show, the best thing to do is go to extremehealthradio.com and you'll see links and instructions to join the live shows there. Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. This is going to be episode 623. So if you want to join the live show or get the show notes for the live show and links to the sponsors or the doctor's website, anything we talk about will be available at extremehealthradio.com/623. Let me bring up our show page too. I want to let you guys know we've got a lot of cool stuff happening on Extreme Health Radio that I'd like to share with you. And like I mentioned, stay up to date with our stuff because there's new shows happening every week, new live shows. We just wrapped up a show with Dr. Jennifer Daniels a few minutes ago. We'll be talking with Dr. Doni Wilson about leaky gut and healing your digestive tract, all kinds of good stuff like that, going deep into your bowels for that. And then Anne Fonda is going to be here on Wednesday, and she's a 25-year cancer survivor. She's from the Annie Appleseed Project, so that will be really cool. Then on Friday at 10:45 will be Ron Hunninghacke. Hunninghacke? I have to learn how to say his name. But he's a really cool guy, and he's going to be talking with us about vitamin C and cancer. And is it affected by vitamin C? And it's a fascinating guy. Then next Monday is Dr. Zach Bush. A lot of you guys have been asking us to have him on, and he's actually been scheduled for, a few months now. So, he'll be on Monday at 10:45 a.m. if you guys want to join the live show. So make sure to tag your friends. If you have a Facebook group or Facebook page, make sure to share this page with your friends in your group, or tag friends that may not or that may need some advice or some tips for their gut health today. So we appreciate that. Let me bring up Dr. Donnie's website here. I want to show you what she's got going on at drdonnie.com. And let me just bring this up for you guys. You guys can take a look at it. She's a prolific doctor, doing some really cool things. And she's doing a lot of stuff with adrenal health and gut health and stress, and written a number of different books. The latest two are The Natural Insomnia Solution, as well as Stress Remedies. And she's a naturopathic doctor, professional midwife, clinical nutritionist, best-selling author, researcher, natural products formulator, and mother practicing in New York, tri-state area. That's awesome. And she meets with people all around the world. She holds a doctorate in naturopathic medicine from the esteemed Bastyr University. That's the big one up in, I think it's northwest, somewhere in Seattle, I think. She's a certified professional midwife and doula. That's awesome. And certified nutritionist. So she has some experience and some degrees behind her name. And we're going to be talking about gut health today. And let me bring her up and turn her audio on and introduce her to you guys. How are you doing, Doc?
Hi.
So glad to have you here. So are you still in the tri-state area? Are you up in New York?
I'm in New York today, definitely, but I travel quite a bit.
Wow. Do you travel and do conferences and speaking, or do you travel and help people? What's the extent of your traveling?
Both, yes. I travel. Even just around. I have 3 actual in-person offices in the tri-state area. So Long Island, Manhattan, and Greenwich, Connecticut. And then I also see patients on the West Coast, California, Washington, and also Arizona in person. And then I really work with patients, all over because I have quite a virtual practice. I really want to be able to get this information to people wherever they are. And then, yes, I do. I speak at a lot of conferences. So just even in the past couple weeks, I was in Manhattan and Vancouver, British Columbia,
Oh,
and in
wow.
Denver. So
Wow. That's fascinating. Wow. Must be a lot of fun. And so how did you get involved in natural health to begin with? Before we start, talking to you about the kind of people you see and the kind of help they need, what got you involved in getting involved in natural health and going to Bastyr, and what started the process for you?
the way I describe it is that I was basically born in a pharmacy or
Mm-hmm.
grew up in a pharmacy because my father is a pharmacist. And he grew this pharmacy chain from 12 stores to over 1,200 stores throughout my childhood. So we moved a lot. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest mostly,
Wow.
and we moved 10 times by the time I graduated from high school. So the thing that was most common to me was the pharmacy and various pharmacies throughout the pharmacy chain. And so what I saw was people coming and going from the pharmacy to get their prescriptions. And my father was great at his job at helping people get access to pharmaceutical help and in the pharmacy. And yet at home, what I learned from my father was how to prevent the need for medications. So he was
Oh.
always talking about choosing healthy foods, taking nutrients, being active in the outdoors, things you could do to prevent the needs for medications. In fact, throughout my childhood, I think I only took antibiotics one day, and really did not use medications when even when I had a cold. We would be drinking. I'd be drinking tea and having a hot towel on my head, and the natural approaches to recovering from a cold versus medications. And so I really came away from growing up with a father as a pharmacist. I came away with that with more of an interest in how to prevent health issues. And so I went to get bachelor's degrees both in science and in nutrition, and figured out that I really wanted to follow that path of using food as medicine. In fact, on the first day of what it would have been pharmacy school, instead of following in my father's footsteps, I instead walked out of pharmacy school and went to
Uh-oh.
Bastyr University to study naturopathic medicine.
All
Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
Wow. So
Mhm.
that's interesting. So did you get any
Mhm.
like what did your dad think about that when you sort of veered paths a little bit?
At the time, it was quite a shock
I
to
bet.
my parents and my family. They were like, "Well, what are you doing?" But now, now it's 25 years later. My parents come to me and ask, what can I be doing? What can I be taking in order to stay healthy? So,
Wow.
at first, it was definitely a shock, but now it makes complete sense to them.
That's interesting that your dad was interested in prevention because, as far as the medical system goes, it doesn't seem like prevention is really a big part of the name of the game. It's really just treating the symptoms and all of that as it arises and not necessarily about prevention. So your dad must have had something within him that was sort of piqued his curiosity with all this stuff too.
Yeah, and I think he was, as a pharmacist, he was seeing research that showed things like, hey, if you can take the right calcium, magnesium, vitamin D, you could be preventing osteoporosis, for example. I remember him
Hmm.
talking about that when I was a kid. And so that was just one example, but it was all the time. I think he was just more aware of the research that was coming out and more aware of preventing the need for medications. And I've heard this now from other pharmacists and people who grew up in a family of pharmacists that they had a similar experience. So I think maybe pharmacists already, or think at least at that time period, were really thinking about the science and the physiology and not necessarily going straight to the prescription.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so fascinating. I'm always curious about how people get into natural health, and everyone sort of has their own story. Everyone, for you, it's a little different than for me. It was my mom's cancer, and so, it's interesting how people get involved in all of this stuff. But with regards to your clinic and the work that you do now, I'm curious, like
Mhm.
with the ever changing and ever evolving sort of environmental landscape out there with 5G and all this sort of weird stuff that we're living in now. What kinds of things are you seeing from people? Like, is there an uptick in a certain kind of condition that people are coming to see you for?
Yes, and see what happened is when I went to Bastyr, I was really interested in women's health, and as you mentioned, I studied to be a doula and a midwife.
Uh huh.
And when I was studying midwifery, my interest was in fear of labor and the stress that happens around labor. So many women, I think, have that experience of being afraid
Oh
of what's
yeah.
going to happen when
Uh
they
huh.
go through the labor process. And so, what I found in that research is that actually what works best for labor is when women have a certain amount of cortisol and adrenaline and sort of that stress experience in order for the body to have a successful labor and delivery of the baby. If there's too much stress, then labor slows down. But also, if there wasn't enough adrenaline and cortisol, also labor would not progress. So it's this concept of how do we understand that a certain amount of stress is necessary. It's just that when we don't have enough stress support, that things go off track. And so when I graduated from Bastyr, I and finished a residency at Bastyr. Then I
Uh-huh.
moved to the tri-state area, New York, which was not where I'm from, and it what happened to be in November 2001. So it
Oh.
was right after 9/11. So it was an extremely stressful time in New York and of course across the country. And so I took what I had learned about stress and started applying it not just to women in labor, but all of my patients with all different health conditions. And I kept on researching stress to help me understand how does stress affect us in various ways and what can we do to help ourselves stay healthy while stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I've been doing over the past almost 20 years is helping people to stay healthy even though we're exposed to a lot of stress. And that perspective works for many health issues. I mean, even some of the research is showing that at least 75%, if not 90% of health issues are in some way related to stress exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know that if we start looking at it from the perspective of stress and helping people recover from stress, we're going to help a lot of health issues. And to me, I really am redefining stress beyond. I mean, we know that there's psychological stresses and daily stresses, emotional stress, relationship stress, work stress, deadlines, financial stress. We're surrounded by these stresses. You
Right.
mentioned even technology can be a stress and
Mm-hmm.
light exposure. But I also would include in that list of things that are stresses, there's toxins in our environment that are a stress on our body. There's
Yeah.
certain foods or sugars and substances in our foods that are a stress. And so looking beyond the psychological stress, including that, but also including all the stress factors in our life, then we can really understand why health issues develop and what we can do to reverse them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are so many stresses. And it's funny too, because you think about like whatever the optimal human diet is supposed to be for people. Like if you were to
Mhm.
take the sort of least stressful thing that someone could consume, even with regards to food, it's probably like, I don't know, some kind of maybe a juice or a water, maybe some kind of like pure just 100% celery juice so it's not sugary. But even that, even drinking water, anything we do and think, it's all a stress, right? And people don't think about it like that.
Mhm.
Even if there's no chemicals, it's still
Mhm.
a stress on your body to deal with some new substance that's now within it, right?
And it can even be a stress if we don't consume anything,
Uh-huh.
so I mean, that's the thing is even things that sometimes are good for us, say even exercise. We know exercise can be really good for us, but there's such a thing as too much and there's
Mm-hmm.
such a thing as too little. And I
Yeah.
think we're so used to living in a world of black and white, we want to know is something good or bad, but what this is showing us is we really need to learn how to live in the middle, how to live in that sort of and feel comfortable in that gray area where yes, exercise, but not too much and not too little. Yes, food, but the right foods in the right ways and the right timing. So just always constantly finding that perfect balance point in the middle. And of course, it's different for each person because we each have our own genetic tendencies and our own history of stress exposure. So I don't think we can really say what's perfect for everyone. We're going to need to take that concept and then individualize it.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, stress is it plays a huge role in digestive health and, leaky gut. And
Huge.
just this, just the fact of us being able to break our food down, many people carry their stress in their gut, in their stomach. And so when you're eating and consuming food in that way, obviously there's going to be an impact there. And so with regards
Mhm.
to leaky gut and digestive health
Mhm.
for people,
Mhm.
what are some of your
Mhm.
top things that you sort of recommend to people?
Well, and you're making such a good point that when I research stress, by the way, there's four major systems that are affected by our main stress hormone called cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
And the first system affected by cortisol is the digestion. And
Oh.
so that's why so many people do notice digestive symptoms when their stress is out of balance. The other three, by the way, include the immune system. So for a lot of people, when they get stressed, they really notice it in terms of their immune health. The third would be the nervous system. So
Uh-huh.
that could be affecting mood, sleep, energy, focus. And the fourth area is all the other hormones in the body. So thyroid, insulin, every hormone you can think of is affected by stress. So when we focus in on the digestion, what you're mentioning is absolutely true, is that when we're under stress, or we have our stress is out of balance, right? We have more stress than our body can recover from in that moment or that day. That's why we make this common connection to ulcers, for example, right? People think of, if you found out you have a stomach ulcer, or you hear someone has a stomach ulcer, often it's common knowledge to think of stress exposure, right? We go, oh yeah, stress, ulcer.
Right.
Well, it even is beyond that. We know that stress makes it so we don't digest our food very well. We know that stress increases intestinal permeability or leaky gut. We also know that stress disrupts those healthy gut bacteria, throws them off track. For some people, stress can cause diarrhea, constipation, various digestive issues. Even irritable bowel syndrome is one of the most common conditions associated with stress. So it
Interesting.
just shows you, yes, it's a common place for stress to show up for us as humans, is a digestion. And yet there's a lot we can do to help our bodies recover from stress
Mm-hmm.
and help our digestion get back to working well.
Mm-hmm. So what's happening when you're stressed? Let's say the kids are arguing, or the kids are crying, or maybe you're late to an appointment, or maybe you have these stressors that are happening, and you're trying to throw some food down, And
Hmm.
so when you're eating in such a state, what's going on are the muscles constricting, or the digestive, is the peristalsis not working correctly, and that's why the food doesn't get digested? Is that actually what happens? The food doesn't digest, right?
Hmm. I think of it like when we're under stress, our body is mostly paying attention to helping us deal with the stress. So
Uh-huh.
it's going to be, you might be having your heart rate up, you might be hyper focused on dealing with the stress. And at the same time, the body turns off what's called our parasympathetic nervous system, or kind of the rest and digest part of our nervous system. And so our nervous system's not giving the digestion the attention it would need to be optimally digesting and processing food. So when we're super stressed, and yet we know we still need to eat, right? So I encourage people, when you're stressed, definitely do eat, but you may have to modify it slightly. You may need to have smaller meals more often so that you can digest them better. And you may want to do some support for your digestion, because yes, exactly what you were mentioning. So the food comes in, and when we're usually counting on our stomach acid and our pancreatic enzymes and our bile to digest the food that we're consuming, those things are going to be lessened. So we're not going to be able to digest the food as well. And if we can't digest our food well, we're not going to get the nutrients from it. If you think about it, I usually draw a picture, kind of looks like a snowman, where the top part of the snowman is the stomach, and then the middle is the small intestine, and the third part of the snowman is the large intestine. So as the food comes in, we actually start usually digesting our food in our mouth. We make
Uh-huh.
digestive enzymes from the mouth all the way down. So by the time our food gets to the small intestine, it should be fully digested. Even part of the job of those small intestinal cells is to finalize and finish off the digestion of our food. And so then only the nutrients can get across the membrane, the glucose, the amino acids, the fat that's been broken down, in our vitamins and minerals. They can get, and water, it can get through the intestinal lining. And then once it gets through the walls of our intestine, then it can get into our bloodstream and into our cells. And I know most people often aren't even thinking of it at that level, but it's pretty awesome when you think about how humans can digest food and get our nutrients, and those nutrients are essential for our survival. So it's like, if we're stressed and we're not digesting our food well, it's very common to have our metabolism thrown off track, and we get depleted in nutrients, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
we might preferentially absorb glucose, which can throw up our blood sugar levels, but we might not be digesting fats and proteins as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is where it starts to get in this imbalance, when we're under constant stress. That's the thing. If you're just stressed for a moment or a day, it's not that big a deal. Our bodies can recover when we have our next chance to take a break. But in our modern life, we're often stressed all day long, every day. So that's when it starts to add up to be an issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the problem too is, a lot of people just don't realize they're stressed because it's like it's so ingrained into their lifestyle that they're always thinking about the next thing. They're always thinking about someone's reaction to them or someone's opinion of them or what's going to happen when I reveal X, Y, Z. And so, or just getting to places on time, it's getting more and more difficult to do that. And so, it's challenging because these stresses sort of happen and they're kind of like you said, they're just happening all day long. It's like people don't even realize they're there because they're just so used to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so here's this, we're eating our food, which we need. It may not be getting digested as well. And the thing is that, sometimes I joke, I wish we had sort of like a little readout or something, something that would pop out like a little
Yeah.
signal that said, okay, you ate just the right amount of food that your body can digest at this moment in time, because we don't have that. And so we went a long, many hours without eating. So now we're starving. We eat a huge amount of food. We can't digest it well because we're so stressed. So now this undigested food is sitting in the belly, and when it's not digested well and can't be absorbed, what happens is it ends up overfeeding the bacteria. Now, we love our healthy microbiome and healthy bacteria in our gut, right? From the bacteria are all over our bodies, but we especially pay attention to the bacteria in the large intestine. And the way we feed those healthy bacteria is with our food. So essentially what we eat determines who's living in our gut. Mm-hmm. And we really want to be feeding the right bacteria because they have such an influence on our whole health. They influence our metabolism, our nervous system, our hormones, everything. We're learning more and more about how important those bacteria are. So when we're stressed, and it even, we know, shifts the health of those bacteria, and we're not digesting our food well. So now we're going to overfeed certain bacteria because of this undigested food. What often results is what we call dysbiosis, or an imbalance of the healthy bacteria. When you get an overgrowth of certain bacteria or an undergrowth of other bacteria, those overgrowing bacteria can produce toxins, referred to as LPS, and that then feeds into the body as an additional stress or toxin. So it becomes what I call like a vicious cycle. This external stress then becomes an internal stress that becomes perpetual. And so someone who might start by just feeling like, oh, I don't feel so well, I might feel nauseous, or I might get, sort of upset stomach when I'm stressed. Over time, that can become bloating and weight gain and worsened anxiety, because we know that these gut issues, because of what's called the gut-brain axis, when there's issues and imbalances in the digestion, it goes immediately signals to the nervous system as a stress, and so we end up having more and more anxiety and depression and sleep issues. Often it's caused from the digestive issues.
It's fascinating too. I mean, that old quote, it seems to be true, right? Or what is it? Death begins in the colon, or what's that famous quote? Is that what it is?
Well, as a naturopathic doctor, we always are taught that our health really begins in our gut. So if you meet with a naturopathic doctor, they will very often be paying attention to your digestive health and helping to optimize there. Even if you have, like, for a lot of patients who come to see me, they're not complaining about digestive health at all. They might be saying, I don't feel any bloating. My stomach and digestion feel great.
Really?
And yet maybe they have anxiety or skin rashes or joint pain or sinus infections. Mm-hmm. And I'm immediately going to be thinking and ensuring that their gut health is optimal, because sometimes it doesn't show up as digestive symptoms. Sometimes it sort of, the symptoms don't show there, but it starts causing issues other places in the body.
Right. Now, when you are talking with people and you're describing some of this stuff to them, are people that generally come in to see you, like, let's say they're completely conventional thinking and they don't understand any of this stuff that you do, is it a hard idea to tell them how much gut health affects everything else? And even though they might be feeling good, like, it seems to me like people would be not understanding that gut affects everything else in the body, right?
Yeah, it is, I think, surprising to people. One example actually is autoimmunity, because I do help patients with, say, rheumatoid arthritis or Hashimoto's or
Hmm.
other types of autoimmunity.
Yeah.
And because most practitioners are not talking about their digestive health, and their symptoms may not be, that might not be the predominant symptom. They might be more like tired and in pain and not thinking about their digestion. And so when I explain to them, the way we're going to reverse this autoimmunity is we need to go in, identify the leaky gut, heal the leaky gut, get the bacteria back on balance. They're at first they can be quite surprised. They're like, how does that fit, and how come none of my other doctors are telling me this?
Right.
It's very clear in the research. And
Yeah.
so we start doing it, and then once they start to see the difference, then they believe it. I tell people, you're all in one body. Of course it's interconnected, right? It's like
Yeah.
we know our body's got signals going every which way, a whole communication systems going on in there. Of course, if you have a symptom in one area, it's going to be related to another part of your body.
Well, that's the hard part too. I mean, that's, people don't think like that and people don't understand. I think we've been sort of conditioned by modern culture and especially the medical industry and doctors and things that, you have like a doctor for your knee, you have an orthopedic surgeon, you have a pharmacist, you have some other doctor for this, and you have a million doctors for the human body. And so when
Mm-hmm.
people start understanding the connection between the gut and everything else and how everything is connected through even Chinese meridian systems and energy flows in the body and
Yes.
how it's all intricately connected, I think it's a weird kind of thought for most people, but I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
the light bulb goes on for people when they start realizing this, right?
Yeah, and leaky gut is such an important part of this connection. I find that I'm so glad that more and more people are learning about leaky gut. I've been talking about leaky gut for as long as I can remember. My first book that came out 5 years ago called The Stress Remedy, I talk about leaky gut, and I have been reviewing that research. There's thousands of research articles about intestinal permeability for decades. And
Hmm.
so to be able to, because sometimes people think, is that real? Is that a real thing? Is that, how come my doctor's
Yeah.
not talking about it?
Yeah.
It's definitely a real thing. There's thousands of research articles over a long period of time. I've been helping people with leaky gut in my practice, I think, for 18 years.
Wow.
And it's the thing I find that most people, that's like a new concept for people about leaky gut, is that it actually comes back to what I was talking about a minute ago. So much of the time we think of leaky gut as either black or white. Either you have it or you don't. It's like, do I have leaky gut or do I not have leaky gut?
Right.
And what I
Right.
would say is it's not black and white. I would say that we all, as humans, have some degree of leaky gut at any point in time.
Uh-huh.
And so it's more a matter of how severe is the leaky gut. And our goal becomes, how do I keep leaky gut as minimal as possible? Could we keep it at like 5 to 10%? Um, but it's when leaky gut becomes more severe, 40% severe, 50%, 60%. And the testing is not that specific. So I can't wait for the day when there's a test that can show us, you have your leaky gut is at 20% severity or 80% severity. There are tests that are attempting to quantify leaky gut. You can measure it from, there's even saliva tests, urine tests, blood tests that can give you some sense of leaky gut.
Uh-huh.
But to me, it's still not as accurate as we really need it to be. And so you can do a test and get a sense of how severe is the leaky gut. I definitely go by symptoms as well. So
Hmm.
if a person is having any kind of health issues already, I'm wondering,
What their gut like
there's
is,
got to be leaky
gut
gut.
health
Now,
is.
how
Yeah.
severe is it?
Yeah.
And
So
then
maybe
the goal becomes healing it.
Yeah, so maybe after the break we can get into some of those symptoms. I'd love to know because I'm sure people are wondering, do I have leaky gut, and is this something that I have, and do I need to work on this? So maybe when we get back from the break, we'll talk about some of the symptoms people could learn about. Want to let you guys know too that we do broadcast live Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. So if you guys want to join the live shows, just go to extremehealthradio.com or sign up to our newsletter. That would probably be the best way for you to stay up to date on all the live shows that we have going on. And if you're watching over on Dr. John Bergman's channel, welcome. You may be wondering why we're here and what we're doing and why we're not Dr. John Bergman. And that's because we're working with Dr. John Bergman inside the Extreme Health Academy. Let me bring that up for you guys to take a look at. The Extreme Health Academy is a place for us to dive really, really deep into a lot of the stuff that we talk about on Extreme Health Radio. So we're doing courses every single month inside the Academy. And that's why we're streaming over to you guys on Dr. John Bergman's channel. So some of the more recent courses we've done are Deep Sleep Mastery, the Heart Health Optimization course, Autoimmune Disease course, Prevent and Heal Cancer Naturally course, the Building Invincible Immunity, Balancing Your Hormones, the Nervous System, the Complete Guide to Improving Digestion. So a lot of cool stuff inside the Academy, and we're doing weekly Q&A sessions that are also live. We do a lot of cool stuff inside there. There's a whole community forum, and I'd encourage you guys to join and sign up. This is a great place for people to go and to take your health to new levels you probably never thought were possible. As you can see here, there's 229 videos, and we're just getting started. Over 28 hours just in the courses section. So a lot of cool stuff going on inside the Extreme Health Academy. So if you go to extremehealthacademy.com, you can take a look at that really quickly and sign up and introduce yourself. I wanted to tell you guys, speaking of gut health, there is a really great product called Stockton Aloe One. Aloe vera is incredible for your gut and incredible for healing your gut. The most ideal way to get aloe vera, though, is just to grow it yourself and pick it and fresh harvest it. But the problem is that, it's just convenience and time. It's difficult to do. But when you have a product like this, I don't know if you guys have been to your health food store and you look at the ingredients on most aloe veras. There's all kinds of binders and excipients and flow agents and other ingredients that are like, what is all this stuff? Stockton Aloe One is just the aloe vera blended up, and they bottle it right there, fresh frozen. And what's amazing about aloe vera too, that it's one of the most powerful superfoods probably in the history of the world. It has over 75 different compounds, everything from vitamins, minerals, enzymes, amino acids, unique long-chain sugars like polysaccharides, D-mannose, lignans. And what's cool, it's antiviral, it's antifungal, it's antibacterial. It's an incredible substance. But what's most interesting about it to me is that it's got a substance in there called ace-mannan, which is basically an immune system stimulator. It's antiviral. And what it does is it induces macrophages in your system to produce this weird substance called interferon and interleukins and tumor necrosis factor A. And so it's incredibly anti-cancer. But I can't really say that. I mean, I could just say that it'll help you. It'll help you get healthier. How about that? So I highly recommend getting some of this. You buy it in 2 half-gallon containers, and they ship it to you flash frozen. And so they don't even ship it to you on the weekends because they're that sort of anal about making sure it comes to you fresh. Aloe vera is just an incredible food, incredible superfood. And if you take this stuff, it will help you tremendously. And then something else I wanted to tell you guys too about one of the more recent products in our store is this Magnetico mattress pad. We got ours. I'll show you a picture of ours. We have the 10 Gauss. That's a picture of Kate sitting on it when she was pregnant. And our kids are sleeping on this thing, and it basically produces a magnetic field for you to sleep in, and which is incredible for sort of bathing in this magnetic field so that you're not affected by Wi-Fi, by dirty electricity in the walls, by ambient EMF, by wireless routers. So you're sort of bathing yourself in these magnetic fields while you sleep. And what's incredible about that is that, like, that's like getting an 8-hour massage. And so magnetism is really incredible. Dr. Robert O. Becker, he was an oral surgeon in the 60s, used magnetism as well as positive negative electrical charges to regrow the limbs on a salamander. So this is pretty incredible stuff. The Earth's magnetic field, unfortunately, has been weakening over the last 4,000 years. In fact, it's been weakening by over 80%. And some have said that during the Babylonian Empire, the magnetic field of the Earth was around 3 to 5 Gauss, and now it's around 0.5. So, oxygen is decreasing, the magnetic field of the Earth is decreasing, air pressure is lowering as well. So one of the ways to mitigate all of this stuff is to sleep in a magnetic field on these Magnetico mattress pads. We have the 10 Gauss. We're going to upgrade soon to the 20 Gauss, which is they call as the super sleep system. And we're going to get some for our dogs and our twin boys. At 5 weeks old, we started sleeping around 8 to 10 hours a night. And they're sleeping on this thing too. So I don't know if it's this, but I can tell you I'm really happy we have it. So if you guys really want to take your health to new levels, check out the Magnetico. Consider getting one of these for your home. You'll sleep better. It'll make you feel amazing. We did a whole show with Dr. Dean Bonley all about it. And they were nice enough to give you guys a coupon code, EHR10, if you guys want to get 10% off. And these things weigh there's 2,000 magnets in there, and it weighs 75 pounds. It's really, really a incredible system. And what's cool about it too is that it's basically kind of like a one-time purchase. So every 50 years, it only loses about 6%. So, this is a really great thing to put on your bed and to heal during your sleep times. And it's just an incredible machine and technology that we have access to in 2018. So I'd highly recommend getting one of these things and using the code EHR10 to get a discount. So let me bring Dr. Doni back, and I want to talk about some of those symptoms that people have with regards to leaky gut, and maybe they're wondering, what kinds of symptoms should I look out for and to know if I have leaky gut? Are there a set of symptoms that people always have?
There's not. Sometimes people will joke, having leaky gut, does that mean I'm going to have diarrhea? Where's the leak happening?
Right. Where's it happening?
Kind of where is this leak anyway? So it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have diarrhea or necessarily any particular symptoms. It really actually could be anything, which is why sometimes it's hard to identify, you might not realize that there's leaky gut happening. And so that's why I encourage you to think about it more like what degree of leaky gut is happening, and to figure that if you've been under quite a lot of stress, now this is either emotional stress or could be physical stress. We know that physical injury also causes this leaky gut, and or any kind of stress in your life, you figure there's got to be some leakiness that you're going to be managing. Now, it could be symptoms. I would say some common ones that I see would be headaches, sinus congestion, joint pain, skin rashes, weight gain, hormonal imbalances, and definitely diagnoses like autoimmunity and even memory loss or cognitive impairment. Those are all things that make me think, hey, I want to go find out about this, how much leaky gut is going on, including insomnia. In my natural insomnia book, I also write about leaky gut because people don't tend to think about their gut health when they're not sleeping.
Right.
And actually, it's so important to address the gut health in order to get you sleeping better again. So it can be a lot of different symptoms. And so what I actually do when I'm working with people to help them identify leaky gut is I encourage them to do a food sensitivity panel. See, the thing is that, so I was talking about how we digest our food, and the job of those cells that line the intestinal lining, their job is to finish the digestion and then allow our nutrients to get through into our body. What happens with leaky gut is that those cells are not as healthy as they could be. Our body has to remake those cells constantly. It's a constant every couple days making new cells for our intestinal lining. And so when we're stressed, that turnover of healthy new intestinal cells isn't happening as well as it could be. And so we end up almost with these microscopic spaces between the cells. Both the cells themselves are not as healthy, and the spaces between them. It's almost like, if you think of it, it's like our cells are stuck together almost like with proteins that act like a Velcro.
Mm-hmm.
And if that, just as you think of Velcro gets used up over time, and when it's stressed, it's not going to hold things together as well. And so now we have these microscopic, they can't see it even on a endoscopy or a colonoscopy. If they're looking with a scope, they're not going to see the leaky gut. If it's really severe, they could see it with a biopsy, which is how they identify celiac disease, is it was very severe leaky gut.
Wow.
But with this mild to moderate leaky gut, you can't see it really. You'd have to, so we can only identify it by understanding the function. So if
Mm-hmm.
food that is too big, it's not the food is not well digested. Usually with a healthy gut lining, that big pieces of food would not get through. But when it's leaky, now larger pieces of food can get through the intestinal lining. And when that happens, the immune system starts to protect us from that food. You see, our immune system is sitting right underneath the lining of our intestine. It's on guard to protect us from viruses and bacteria. So it's waiting for things that shouldn't be there, foreign substances, to come through and protect us. When food that's not well digested gets through between those cells, the immune system pounces on it. Now, normally when we think of food reactions, we think of food allergies, like say when someone's allergic to peanuts and they
Right.
end up in the emergency room, right? That's an antibody called IgE. And IgE is an immediate response antibody that causes immediate and severe symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
But the immune system makes all kinds of different antibodies and substances to try to protect us. So it can make more delayed response antibodies and other mediators, or cytokines we call them. And so if we can do a food sensitivity panel, we can see what kind of immune response is happening in response to the food. And by seeing that, we can indirectly identify the leaky gut, because the only time that we're going to be so reactive, our immune system so protective against our food, is because the gut lining is leaky. It's allowing the food to leak through where it should not be.
So, Dr. Doni,
Does that make sense?
is it possible for someone to have an immune response but not have leaky gut? Is that even a possibility?
It's really, I mean, yes, a person could have, say, a peanut allergy, but it's going to be fewer foods
Okay.
and much less likely. But
Okay.
when a lot of times people will come and say to me, "Oh my gosh, I'm reacting to more and more foods. I notice now every time I eat this food, I don't feel well. I get a headache, or my sinuses are congested, or I get a stomach ache." People will start to notice that more and more foods make them not feel good. Sometimes that says to me, okay, it must be that it's a leaky intestinal lining, and we can go in and see which foods are reacting. But
Uh-huh.
I don't, yes, knowing which foods a person reacts to helps us, because then we can say, okay, say for example, gluten, which by the way is in research we know causes leaky gut. Gluten is known to increase the spaces between our intestinal cells and
Mm-hmm.
sort of open it up so that other food substances can get through. And so when we test and we see that there's an immune response to gluten, we know that there's got to be leaky gut happening. And avoiding the gluten will help, because now we're taking away the substance that's making the leaky gut worse.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when we remove these foods and substances that cause leaky gut, it gives our body a chance to recover. Our body is already trying to heal the intestinal lining all day, every day. So if we just remove the causes of leaky gut, gives our body a chance to heal it.
Mm-hmm.
So just sometimes even just shifting our stress level and shifting our exposure to certain foods, the gut will start to heal. It is a bit of a slow process. So adding anything we can add to help speed up that process is a good thing.
You know, it's a hard concept for people to understand, and for me as well. It's really strange when you have these delayed responses. So, like, if you have, like, let's say you're allergic to it, or I don't know if there's a difference between being allergic to something or having an immune response, but let's say whatever the right word for that is, if you have if your body responds in a negative way to a certain food, why is it that you would consume that food on a Monday and then you wouldn't really start seeing a symptom until Thursday? What's going on there?
You know, When in science and in medicine, it's the way they named it is when it's based on the antibody, and the antibodies are just named with letters. So
Okay.
IgE, for example, with the letter E is the one we know about most often. That's like IgE is what triggers those immediate peanut allergies.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it's an IgE mediated response, we call it an allergy. That's
Okay.
what allergy means, is IgE, and immune system is working. If it's a different antibody, so they name them, there's IgG, there's IgA, there's IgM,
Uh-huh.
and there's a bunch of other antibodies. But with these delayed responses, we're often looking at the IgA and the IgG. See, IgA, instead of having this immediate and severe response, it responds over days to a week. And the symptoms are more mild, but still can be significant. And then
Interesting.
the IgG response is more, it could even last over a couple weeks, even up to 3 weeks after you eat the food. So
Wow.
it's this more delayed response. So they're more referred to as a food sensitivity. The thing is that the word food sensitivity sounds not so bad, right? It sounds like, oh, it's just a food sensitivity. But
Right.
actually, for people, when they have food sensitivities, it can actually really affect their day to day and their life and the way they feel. If it's causing, for me, some of these food sensitivities, for example, used to cause migraines, or for other people could cause, eczema or skin rashes or asthma, or, so it can be quite severe symptoms. But it's because there's a delay, often you don't put it together. Like, it's not that it may not be that you eat this food today and you're immediately feeling it. It could be that you're eating that food every day and it's adding up over time. And so you're gradually over time going, wow, I don't feel great. But
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to match it up with the food. And that's why doing a food sensitivity panel can be so helpful. So I recommend doing a panel that looks at both the IgA and the IgG, so you can see these delayed responses to the foods and really see which foods are getting involved, which foods are triggering this immune response. Because
Mm-hmm.
even though we're talking about the immune system in the gut, like at the small intestinal lining, that immune response can travel throughout the whole body. It's like sometimes I think of it like almost like an email system, or texting. Our body's
Yeah.
texting
Yeah.
everywhere. So it's happening in the gut, but the nervous system's going to know about it. The hormones are going to know about it. The skin's going to know about it. It's going to send that signal everywhere. And
Mm.
whether that signal happens over a few days or that signal happens over a few weeks, eventually you're going to be feeling it at different places in your body. And it's very individualized. It's, I think, to some degree, our genetics. Like, one person might be more prone to experience it as a headache, like me. Other people might be more prone to experience it as a skin rash. But however it's going to show for you, just to know that those symptoms can be caused by delayed food sensitivities. And if you're having delayed food sensitivities, the correction is not just to avoid the food, but we have to actually work on healing the leaky gut. Because once we heal leaky gut, because that's the thing, leaky gut is not permanent. It can heal.
Mm-hmm.
If we can take the right steps, those cells can grow back, the body can recover, and then the food sensitivities decrease. So I think people are not used to realizing how our bodies can actually heal. When we give them the right environment and take away the things that are the problem, the body can actually recover. And that's the case with leaky gut. It can get better.
Mm-hmm. We're with Dr. Doni Wilson. If you guys want, we're going to be taking some questions from the chat room, and this is your opportunity to sort of get access to her, because a lot of the doctors and people we speak with are very busy people, and their practices are very demanding, and their prices are pretty expensive. And so this is a chance for you guys to ask a question. So we're going to take some questions from the chat room in just a second. We've got about 10 minutes left. But before that, I want to give people a chance to actually formulate their questions and type them in. So we'll be taking questions from the Extreme Health Radio YouTube channel. So if you want to ask Dr. Doni a question, make sure to go there. Just go to YouTube and type in Extreme Health Radio, and you should see the live event happening. And then ask your question in all capitals. So before we start taking any questions, I was curious with regards, Dr. Wilson, to these food sensitivity tests. Do you think there's any relevancy or any merit in like the pulse test people can do on their own and see what kind of immediate reaction that they might have to a food based on their pulse rising?
Some people are able to tell when they react, or they might be able to use something like a pulse test or another way of just noticing that their body's reacting. I tend to be a person who's very sensitive, and I can really notice when my body shifts when exposed to certain substances. So that can work. And of course, there are so many different food sensitivity panels out there. Not all of them are equal or equally accurate. So you want to be careful when you are choosing a food sensitivity panel to, try to work with a practitioner who can get you a test that's going to give you the right information. And again, then I would, from there, once you have a sense of it, and even if you're not going to do a test, one of the top foods I would say to start avoiding would be gluten, because we know that gluten tends to cause leaky gut. So that's a good place to start. And the most common food sensitivities with IgA and IgG are gluten, as well as dairy products from cow milk. I also see egg white as a common food sensitivity, especially if a person's eating eggs often. And then it can be, for some people, it's in the nut family, but not everyone. Sometimes it's certain, fruits or vegetables. So that's where you want to find, and you want to identify where's the most severe reactions. And then I encourage, we can talk more about this. What do I do to help people speed up the healing of leaky gut? I mean, you mentioned aloe before, and that is one of the herbs that I definitely recommend, using for helping to heal leaky gut. You want to use herbs that are anti-inflammatory and soothing and healing to the intestinal lining. So aloe is a great one. Another that we often use is it's a licorice, the herbal licorice, not the candy licorice, but there's an herb called licorice, and the herbal licorice in the form of what's called DGL, which is it's a deglycerized licorice, which means that it doesn't affect blood pressure, but it is still anti-inflammatory and very healing to the intestinal cells. And so we can use these herbs as well as, and I'm happy to talk more about this, different nutrients to help those intestinal cells recover faster.
Yeah, you know what? Let's put together a general program for people, because I talk a lot about colostrum and bone broth and aloe, these types of things. Let's just lay out a bunch of different foods, assuming people aren't allergic to them themselves, But let's lay out like 5 or 10. I know you have an article on your website. I'll bring it up while you're talking about this, and then maybe we'll take some listener questions. But let's build a little protocol for people that could help them with their gut.
What I do is I start by avoiding the foods that are triggering. So this might be gluten, or you might do a food sensitivity panel and see which other foods you need to avoid. And then next I would do is supporting your digestion. So we talked about when we're stressed, we don't digest well. So what you can do to help is I would start with some pancreatic enzymes to help digest your food better. Because again, if the food is digested, first of all, it's not going to trigger your immune system. So you're not going to get the food reactions. And it helps those intestinal cells recover, and it helps with the bacteria balance as well. So the second thing is support your digestion, likely by using pancreatic enzymes. And then the third thing is I would use some nutrients and herbs that help the actual cells recover. So one of the best nutrients, based on the research we see helps, is an amino acid called glutamine, or L-glutamine. Glutamine is an amino acid, which we get all amino acids from protein in our diet, but glutamine in particular is necessary for those intestinal cells to be healthy. And so when you swallow glutamine, either in a capsule or powder form, it's going to get soaked up by those intestinal cells and help them be healthy. The thing that happens when we're stressed is our body, instead of using the glutamine for intestinal cells, our body uses the glutamine to help us respond to the stress. And so that's why leaky gut is so common when we're stressed, is that the glutamine gets used up and these poor intestinal cells are depleted in it. So we can use glutamine, I would say in the dosage range of 500 milligrams to 3,000 milligrams. Likely you don't need to do more than 3,000 milligrams a day and get those intestinal cells the nutrients they need. And then we can use herbs like the ones I mentioned, the aloe and deglycerized licorice and others. There's slippery elm. There's a lot of herbs that have been shown to help with healing in those intestinal cells. And then the next area would be to optimize these gut bacteria. We talked about how the gut bacteria get thrown out of balance when we're stressed. So we got to find out how are your gut bacteria doing. And there's actually tests now that is usually a stool test that's going to show us who's living in your gut. Is there too much or too little of certain bacteria? And then we can actually get them back on track.
I like that. I like that. Okay, good. And I noticed I brought up the article that while you're talking, and there's a lot of, it's called 16, if you guys want to check it out, it's called 16 Supplements, Nutrients, and Herbs to Heal Leaky Gut. And I'll put a link on your, on this show page so that people can actually go over there and read basically everything that you were just saying, but in much more detail. So let's take a couple questions from the chat room here. Jojo is a member of our academy, and it's awesome. She says here, I don't want to make my own bone broth. Is there any on the market that you feel confident in?
There definitely are bone broths on the market that are either in a package, or you can get them, like I've seen them at the grocery store in a frozen pack, sort of like frozen right after they make it, which I kind of like the idea of that. And you can also get bone broths in powder form and make them that way, or order them and have them shipped to you. The thing I'd be looking for is make sure that it's organic, because you want to make sure that the ingredients they used were organic to begin with, so that you're not getting exposed to any pesticides or other hormones that might have been in the bone, source of the bone to begin with. And then you're also going to want to look at any other ingredients they add to the bone broth. Sometimes, that's possible they could even add sweeteners or sugars that you don't want in your bone broth. And sugar can also actually increase leaky gut. And you may want to look and see, do they add, say, onions or any other ingredients that you might be reacting to. So there are some that exist. And maybe, I'm trying to think of some of the names. I'm sure you probably also know of some as well.
Yeah, there's
actually, I think I have. There's another blog post on my site, by the way, that's all about bone broth and how to make your own and how to find bone broth.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'll try to pull that up. Jojo, I like the brand Kettle and Fire has a good one, and as well as there's one guy, Chef Lance, and I think his is just bonebroth.com. He's really good too, isn't he?
He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love his bone broth. So delicious.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So hopefully that helps you. And if you guys are typing in questions, if you can, make sure to do it in all caps. That way I can distinguish between what you guys are just sort of commenting to each other about and then what your actual questions are. AJ wants to know where you would start the journey to heal the gut, but we kind of covered that, right, Doc?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, to some degree, I would say start even by your stress exposures. Make sure you're handling, making sure your stress recovery throughout the day, and looking at which foods might be contributing for you. Eliminate those from your diet. Even we know that pesticides can cause leaky gut, and even too much sugar can cause leaky gut. So it's a chance to clean up your diet. I call it, we're gonna just go, how can I eat organic? How can I choose the foods that are healthiest for me? And that's a really good place to start. You can think about adding supplements in and herbs.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah, you cut out just a little bit there, Doc. But
did I?
Yeah. But we did have a question from Abrielle, I think that's a cool name. Abrielle, Forever Learning. She wants to know any tips on staying away from sugar when trying to heal leaky gut. It's a good one.
Yeah, you got me okay, right?
Yeah, sounds.
Sure I'm coming through.
Yeah, you're coming through better now, so that's good.
Okay, sugar it's so common. When you start to look at the different foods we eat and you look at the ingredients, often sugar's listed or under a different name, right? It could say cane juice or some other form of a sweetener or sugar. And so I would say just start by looking at the ingredients in the foods that you're eating, and even in your protein shakes. Sometimes they put sugar in the protein shakes, and certainly in different beverages. So just make it a intention each day to just go, hey, I'm going to look at the things I'm eating and drinking and find out if there's sugar in there. And if there is, I'm going to set it aside and go find a different option that doesn't have sugar. And it can really help to just come back to real foods instead of choosing packaged foods where they often do add sweeteners. Just sticking to foods that you know exactly what the ingredients are and you made it yourself, then you know you're staying away from sugar. Now, sometimes if you've been having a lot of sugar, it's very addictive. So you're going to be thinking about the sugar all day. So what I recommend doing is focus on the protein, to get you through the day. Just think, whenever you find your mind thinking, I need something sweet, instead change it and say to yourself, actually what I need is some protein or healthy fat, and go back to the fridge or the cabinet and say, okay, where's the protein? Where's the healthy fat? Because if you get yourself on this track of having healthy fats and proteins every few hours, you're going to stop craving the sugar.
Good stuff. Yeah. A couple of my own thoughts on that, because I was very, very much addicted to sugar and sugary types of products. For me, it was like chocolate chip cookies and chocolate cupcakes and stuff like that. I was just addicted. But what I would do is tell yourself, like, maybe do it over time, right? Like, tell yourself, okay, I can still have those cookies. It's okay, but I have to eat an entire avocado first, or I have to eat some protein first. And then, so let's say you would normally eat like 12 cookies. If you cut that in half, well, then you're one step closer, right? And then there's herbs too. You probably know about these, like Gymnema sylvestri, which help to cut carbohydrate intake and help to minimize the amount of sugar that the body actually has to absorb, and probiotics and exercise and things, right?
Yeah, and then there's chromium, which is a nutrient that helps with blood sugar balance.
Oh,
They can help,
right.
but I completely agree. One of the things is about stress is that we tend to stress about stress, and we also tend to stress about expecting perfection from ourselves. So try to not expect an overnight change. Go, hey, let me do this little by little and start to implement, and be in a place of curiosity is the way I think about it. Like, be curious. Say you do eat something that you know has sugar in it. How do you feel afterwards? Because your body's going to tell you, and you're going to learn from that. And so the next time you might say, hey, what if I have a little sugar, but I have some healthy protein with it? Now, how did I feel? Nice. And I think the more we build an awareness little by little, then it's a more likely way to create change over time.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Building awareness. Okay, let's go maybe a little bit quicker because the questions are coming in here. So I want to make sure that we get to some of them here. Eric wants to know: Can leaky gut cause GERD?
Yes, GERD can be a symptom that tells me that there's probably some leaky gut happening, because GERD is when there's reflux, right? So the stomach acid is refluxing up, and people experience heartburn. And the thing that about GERD is that there's this muscle here above the stomach that should be preventing the reflux. And that muscle, by the way, responds to protein. So here again, protein can help. When you eat protein each meal, it encourages that muscle to close off so the reflux doesn't happen. But the way it connects with leaky gut is that when there's inflammation in the small intestine, and you're not digesting your food well, you're much more likely to have reflux happen as well.
Interesting. Okay. Let's see. AJ is a vegan, and he or she wants to know about a bone broth alternative. My first guess would be something like silica, but what do you think, Doc?
Yeah, you can make vegetable broths. In that blog post on my website, I mentioned there's a vegetarian bone broth, or vegan bone broth. Broth without the bones in it. And the thing that may be missing would be the glutamine part. And you can get vegan sources of glutamine and consume that, and maybe herbs that also essentially give the same benefit of bone broth, but without the animal source in there.
I see. Okay, good stuff. All right. Valerie wants to know, what about stevia? What are your thoughts on stevia?
Stevia is from a plant. I grew some here in my garden a couple years ago. It grew like 6 feet high of these beautiful green leaves. And so
Oh, wow.
stevia is really an herb that happens to be sweet. So I think it's very different than sugar. It does not trigger an insulin response,
Mm-hmm.
and it can give you some sweetness. Now, some people worry if you still eat something sweet, even though it's an herb, will that still cause you to have sweet cravings? And we haven't seen the research on that it causes an issue. So at this point, I think stevia as a sweet herb alternative for sugar cravings, I think it's safe. I think it's okay to use.
Yeah, yeah. I like the stevia that's the green stevia, not the white powder stuff. Do you think there's any difference there?
Mm-hmm. Well, by the time it's white, I mean, they probably had to bleach it to get it that way. So if you can get as natural source as possible, that's great. But
Yeah,
and there
yeah.
are some really good, nice sources of stevia. Or unless you make grow your own, it was easy to grow. Grow your own and dry it and grind it up.
I like
Hmm.
that. Yeah, yeah. Why not do it yourself? That way you have complete control over the whole process. Jojo wants to know, is pure maple syrup a good sugar substitute or stevia? So what are your thoughts about, the differences between pure maple syrup versus stevia?
Maple syrup and honey are mostly a sugar called fructose. So there's glucose, which is what we usually think of in like white sugar. And then there's fructose, which is in, say, maple syrup and honey mostly. And agave, too, is mostly fructose. Now, a little bit of fructose is okay, but as you've probably heard, when we have too much fructose, like high fructose corn syrup, it doesn't trigger insulin, but it is still work for our liver.
Mm-hmm.
So you can I think it's probably a good alternative to straight sugar, but you want to keep in mind that there is such a thing as too much fructose one thing is it can overwhelm the liver. The other thing is fructose has to be digested at those intestinal cells. And so what I find is when people have more severe leaky gut, those intestinal cells are not digesting the fructose very well, and they're more likely to experience something called fructose intolerance. And a fructose intolerance can cause more bloating and gas. So if you notice that you eat, say, even fruit, which has fructose, or maple syrup or honey, and you're feeling more bloating and gas or irritable bowel type symptoms, it could be that you're consuming more fructose than your intestinal cells can handle at that moment. And then it's an issue. We need to just drop your fructose levels. And if you look up something on my blog called FODMAP diet, or
Mm-hmm.
FODMAP, or fructose intolerance, I write about that because I experienced it myself. I've had a lot of what I write about and talk about is because I experienced it and helped my body recover. So I had leaky gut, I had fructose intolerance, and I've helped myself recover and then write about it.
Yeah, that is so fascinating. Super fascinating. Interesting. Interesting. All right, I'll bring that article up. What about indigestion here? It says the person gets indigestion a few times a year, and it's really, really painful, and it feels like the stomach is being pressed down upon. There's a whole lot of stuff here. But as far as indigestion, what are some of your thoughts about that?
Well, some people use the word indigestion kind of in general, digestive upset. Some people use it to refer to like a heartburn kind of experience. And I definitely think it can be related to the stress, the effect of stress that we're talking about, right? So the food's not getting digested well. The nutrients are not getting absorbed very well. And now we're overfeeding the bacteria. And so you get this pressure in there because it's like the bacteria, when bacteria are overfed, they create gas. So if you're experiencing gas or bloating, just know that that's likely because the bacteria are fermenting the food, especially the fibers and the carbohydrates in your food, and producing the gas. And when there's gas in your belly, it definitely feels like pressure. It feels like pressure up, down, sideways, and it can
Mm,
be painful. So when you experience that, just know, have that come to mind. Okay, I'm probably eating more food than I'm digesting at the moment. I'm I probably have leaky gut, so all the nutrients are not getting through. And the bacteria are way too happy. They're getting overfed. So then you want to just take this same approach that I've been describing. Start to, first of all, eat smaller meals. We want to eat smaller amount at a time so our body can actually digest it. Have less of the carbs and sugars, because carbs and sugars, if we don't digest them, it's going to overfeed the bacteria. And then start working on healing the leaky gut and getting your bacteria back on track again. That's going to solve and prevent that indigestion from happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's do a couple more questions here. Let's see. I was wondering too if it's true that bad bacteria can feed on even healthy fats. Often crave fat along with sugar, so I wonder if it's the bad bacteria making me want it. It's interesting.
Could be. It can be. We're learning a lot about these bacteria, and one of the jobs that bacteria do for us is make some healthy fats down in the colon. With your symptoms, what I would wonder is you might not be digesting your fats well.
Okay.
See, fats are digested by bile, and bile is made in the liver, and it comes out through the gallbladder. Some people have had their gallbladder removed, and they're even more likely to have issues digesting fats. But you might still have your gallbladder, and that bile production process is not happening as efficiently as it could be. And if you're not digesting your fats well, what happens is you might be eating all these healthy fats, which I love. For many years, we were trying to avoid fats, right? And now we're encouraging everybody, no, make sure you get your healthy fats.
Right.
But the issue is you could be eating a lot of healthy fats, but if your bile's not digesting them, those fats are going to go straight through you. And we see it in the stool panel. We'll see that it's still in your stool instead of actually getting absorbed into your body. And so you might be craving fats because your brain is saying, hey, I never got the fat. I know you're eating fat, but I never got it. I never saw it come into the cells. And so you have the craving for fat, but it may actually be because your bile is not digesting your fats well. So to confirm it, I would do a stool test so you could see if there's fat in the stool.
Mm-hmm.
And then that might help you, from there be able to know what to do.
Okay, fascinating. Good stuff. All right, Kat Scully says, have you ever heard of idiopathic gastroparesis? And as far as I understand, it's like, isn't that like a delayed emptying of the stomach or something?
Yeah, so if the stomach leads to the small intestine, and it's a kind of a narrow part. It kind of goes stomach and then narrow and then back open to the small intestine. And so gastroparesis is when it's so narrow there that it's hard for the food to get out of the stomach to get into the small intestine. Now, sometimes gastroparesis happens, it's common with diabetes, someone with a history of diabetes, but it can happen otherwise. I think a lot of times it's from inflammation and stress, because the nervous system is constantly being told that there's this constant stress signal, so then the stomach is never getting that recovery time. And there can be, with leaky gut, we get a lot of inflammation in the digestion, both the small intestine and the stomach. And so I think that can be where that idiopathic means unknown cause, right? So they're saying there's gastroparesis for an unknown cause. To me, it's not such an unknown cause. It's stress and not digesting well and leaky gut and inflammation. So we resolve those things, and when I help those patients, the gastroparesis improves, because we're actually getting to the cause.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, this is sort of a non-digestive related question, but your work spans not just digestion, but many other facets of health as well. So this is kind of unrelated a little bit, but Drew wants to know, what prenatal supplements do you recommend?
And I do. I help a lot of women with getting pregnant and early pregnancy, and I don't do the prenatal care, but I do the naturopathic supportive care on the side.
Mm-hmm.
So with a prenatal vitamin, and this might open a whole nother area we can talk about another day too, if you'd like.
Yes.
But the thing that I'm really paying attention to is the form of folate, because still, unfortunately, so many prenatal vitamins out there still have folic acid. Of course, the research shows, we need the nutrient folate in order to prevent neural tube defects. Mm-hmm. So we know we need folate. But what's happened over the years is that a lot of supplement companies used a more inexpensive form called folic acid. And what our bodies really need is methylfolate, or the active form of folate. And actually, more than 50% of people have a genetic variation or genetic mutation that doesn't allow them to effectively convert the folic acid to folate. So, because not everybody knows whether they have that genetic variation, to me, I just recommend making sure you choose a prenatal that definitely says on the label methylfolate, or and not just folic acid, because they do exist, these methylfolate containing prenatals. The other thing about prenatal vitamins is to know that the only difference really between a multivitamin and a prenatal is that it's going to contain iron. And so a lot of women have trouble with iron in the multi. It can cause constipation, it can cause nausea. And so sometimes we'll actually just use a multivitamin for their prenatal vitamin. And then when they need more iron, we add it separately. So there's ways to, I think, optimize prenatal nutrients by having this simple knowledge, by just knowing, hey, I want to make sure it has the right form of B vitamins in there, not just the folate, but we want methyl B12, we want, and then we also want vitamin D. I love to be in a prenatal if it can have vitamin D. I also like a prenatal to have something called choline, because a lot of women become depleted in choline, choline. So yes, I could talk a lot about pregnancy nutrition, but those are a couple of the top points I would make for you.
Yeah, you know what, Doc, maybe let's do a whole show on that. That would be kind of fun to do. I think that would be really helpful for people. Okay, we're running up against the clock, but I want to do 2 more questions, and that's going to be it. I want to make sure to get all of these questions out. So, but I want to also make sure and be cognizant of doctor's time here. So, Bob says, I love his name on YouTube. His name is Bob Dylan. That's great. He says, I get foggy brain when I eat fruit, but also about 2/3 of fruit are just fine on my gut, it seems. Any ideas?
And that's a good, foggy brain is a common symptom. By the way, we were talking about symptoms earlier. For a lot of people, that's, they eat certain foods and then they just feel like their brain is not working well. And in terms of the fruits, I'd be curious if you look at a list of the fruits that are higher fructose and even higher glycemic index. And I'd be curious if it's the fruits that are higher fructose that end up causing more issue for you. And what you might try doing is the safest fruits tend to be frozen berries. Like I just get frozen blueberries and blackberries, keep them in my freezer, and maybe have like a 1/4 cup. And if you feel okay with having that kind of 1/4 cup of frozen blueberries and blackberries, those are the lowest fructose, lowest glycemic fruits, and the least likely to trigger food sensitivities too. So I would start with the safest fruits. Start working on healing the leaky gut, like we talked about. And I think what you'll find is little by little, you're going to be able to expand and eat other fruits without having a reaction.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, finally, final question is about Candida. And what would be your sort of Candida protocol, top 4 or 5 things to help deal with that?
I'm so glad that you're mentioning that, because we were talking about the bacteria and I didn't mention Candida or yeast. We have, it's normal to have bacteria in our digestion. We also are going to have a little bit of yeast or Candida in our digestion. The issue is when they start overgrowing.
Okay.
And yeast love sugar. So here we were talking about sugar. And for a lot of people, it's when they've been consuming more sugar and carbohydrate-rich foods, including can be fruits, right? Fruits are carbohydrate. It can cause those yeast to overgrow. And so some people experience that as, say, bloating. It can cause brain fog. Of course, it can cause yeast infections in other areas of the body as well. And so the way to resolve it is very similar to what we've been talking about. We're going to want to change the diet so we're not overfeeding those yeast. And we're going to change the diet so that we can start healing leaky gut. You see, when leaky gut happens, we're more susceptible to yeast and we're more susceptible to overgrowing bacteria because the intestinal cells help make sure it's a healthy environment for the bacteria that prevent yeast. So always in a yeast protocol, I would include the leaky gut healing. And then in terms of killing the yeast, I tend to use herbal approaches because I find them to be very effective. A lot of herbs are both antibacterial and antifungal. So we might use garlic, oregano, grapefruit seed extract, and a few others. I usually end up using them in a combination formula. The thing with yeast, though, to remember, and the same is true with overgrowing bacteria, when we kill them, even with herbs, they can let out toxins that can make you feel worse. It's called a die-off response.
Mm-hmm.
And so the key is you want to start low and slow. So start with a low dose. Say you want to try oregano. Start with a low dose very slowly. My rule is if ever you feel worse and you start having die-off responses, you got to back off right away. Back off of your treatment. Let your body heal and recover from the die-off. Then you can move forward very slowly. And by taking this comprehensive approach with the diet changes, the leaky gut healing, the herbal approaches to getting rid of the yeast, and I also use certain bacteria called bacillus to help manage the situation, manage the bacteria. By having this comprehensive approach, that's when we get the best results with getting rid of candida, because sometimes people struggle with it for years, and I think of it as we just have to outsmart it, right? We can outsmart the situation and get past it. And my patients move way beyond candida and it never comes back. So I want you to know it's possible, because sometimes it feels impossible, but
Right.
it's possible to heal leaky gut. It's possible to manage candida. All of this is possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny too because we think about killing candida and killing these things, but in actuality, what's interesting is that part of candida's job is to eat up dead cells, and so whenever we eat food that kills a lot of cells in our body, it's essentially we're eating food that's actually killing our cells, and then the candida has to grow in order to eat up those dead cells, and so that should be a big indicator there that we're actually killing or eating food that's killing us. So there's the idea of starving the candida out, right, by a proper diet, and then the idea of going after them with some of the things that you were talking about. That should be like the double-headed approach to that.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to what we've been talking about throughout, which is it's not a black and white. We're not looking to get the candida necessarily to zero. We're not looking to get your diet to zero, carbohydrates. You shouldn't have to starve yourself in order to starve the candida. It's about finding this middle area. How do we optimize your diet, optimize your environment inside your body? And by doing that, the candida are no longer happy. I say we're going to make it so it's not such a happy home for candida. Now, right now, the candida are too happy there. We're going to shift the environment so yes, there's going to be a little bit of candida, but we're not trying to, get to black and white. We're trying to find this optimal environment for your health.
Nice. I love that. All right, Doc. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up there because I want to be aware of your time. But tell people a little bit about some of the things you have going on your website and some new projects. What are you working on, and how are you helping people? And just give people a little bit of an update as to what you have going on right now.
Oh, I'd love to. One of the first things I'd say to do is, and the easiest way to get there is directly to stresswarriorbook.com. My Stress Warrior book just came out. And to me, Stress Warrior is exactly what we've been talking about, being healthy, even though we know we're exposed to stress. So it's this healthy while stressed approach. And when you go to stresswarriorbook.com, you can actually sign up to have me email you the book. So I'll just email you a PDF version of the book. You can also get it at Amazon. It's at Amazon.
Cool.
But this way you can get the Stress Warrior book. And in the book, I talk about all of this about leaky gut. How do we heal leaky gut? In addition, I talk about just recovery from stress in general, and adrenal distress and oxidative stress. and how to just be able to do the work you're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur, an executive, a parent, or other high performing person. You want to be feeling your best, your energy, your focus all day long, and you want to be sleeping your best too. So to do that, I think of it as, let me help you be a stress warrior. And so you can get the book. You see there, you can also sign up for my free 7-day stress reset. And in the 7-day stress reset, I guide you through a meal plan and protocol to get you started with healing leaky gut.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring that up on the page right now for people to take a look at that. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
This is great. So it's a 7-day
Yes.
program that you have?
7 days. It has, each day you'll get a video from me helping you to start implementing, like we talked about. You want to be making small incremental changes each day. And it does come with a guidebook, with a meal plan and recipes, and really start to help you become more aware of how stress is affecting you, and things you can do in terms of what I call care activities. Care activities is C for clean eating, so how to help you clean up your diet. A for adequate sleep, how to help just get you sleeping better hours. And R is for stress reducing activities, so getting in these activities each day to help you with your stress recovery. And E is for exercise, so helping to find what's that optimal amount of exercise and type of exercise to help you get the benefit and not more stress.
Awesome. Cool. Doc, I really appreciate this, but I hope you don't hate me. There's one question that I forgot, and this is from the YouTube chat. Is there a leaky gut and leaky brain relationship? Sorry about that.
Oh, there totally is. Oh my gosh, and you're exactly touching on a subject I've been talking about a lot lately. I mentioned that I've been traveling to present, and I've been presenting to practitioners, helping them to learn how to help their patients prevent and reverse cognitive decline and Alzheimer's disease. And so it's all about the brain, right? We're learning from the research, because for a long time we thought we couldn't do anything about our brain. It was just like stuck there on its own. But now we know we can improve our brain health, including from dementia. And so the way we do it includes addressing this gut-brain connection. So whenever I work with a person who's having memory issues, or really anything in the brain, anxiety, depression, sleep issues, all of that in the brain and the nervous system is completely connected to the gut health. So you'll see in my books and in my articles that I'm always coming straight back to, let's help our digestion recover from stress. Let's heal leaky gut. Let's get these gut bacteria healthy and working for you instead of against you. And by doing that, you're definitely going to help the brain heal. And we can even go as far as saying that we can reverse dementia by doing that. So it's pretty amazing.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That is just, that's fascinating. All right, Doc, we're going to have to do this again, because we could do a whole show on that, or a whole show on the prenatals. Man, there's so many different directions we could go. So we might have to do this again. So thank you for being on, and thanks for sharing all of this awesome information. Your signal was coming in great. Your information was amazing. Thanks for sharing your time with us.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
All right, Doc, I will be in contact with your assistant, and I'll send her the link to the show and all of that as soon as it's available. And feel free to share it with whoever you like, but I appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Likewise, I'm so glad to get to share this. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Doc.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Dr. Doni Wilson, that was for you, Mr. Bob Dylan. That last question, I totally forgot to ask that question earlier, so my apologies to you. But it does look like there's a connection, at least from her research, with leaky gut and leaky brain issues. So interesting stuff. What did you guys think? Do you guys like that show? I thought she was pretty good. And most of you guys, I think you guys might have been on the show that we did with Dr. Daniels as well. I'm not sure if you were on that one or not, but that's available in our YouTube channel as well. But you can check that out. That was just a few minutes before this particular show. So, yeah. Do you guys have any questions for me or anything else? I'm just going to hang around here for a few minutes if you guys want to hang out and enjoy, a little bit of Q&A session. Wanted to let you guys know there's some cool events coming up, and this one was, there's an event. There's the Autoimmune Revolution Summit coming up, and let me put that in the chat room. So you guys may want to take a look at that because this is kind of related to what we were talking about. That happens, I think, on November 5th, 2019. And there's some other events coming up as well, but I don't have the particular links to them as right now. There's also Brian Hoyer is going to be coming to Los Angeles, and he's actually here right now for the next, I think, 5 days. And so you guys might want to take a look. We did a whole show with him about protecting yourself from EMF, and he'll come and do a home assessment for you. And if you're in the LA area and you're listening, you happen to be listening, I'm not sure if he's totally and completely booked up, but it's currently October 22nd, 2018, and I think he's here until the 29th of October. So make sure to grab him and book a session with him if you want him to come to your home. And he's got like $30,000 worth of meters that he'll go through your home and tell you exactly everything that's going wrong with regards to EMF, dirty electricity, all of that stuff. So I'd recommend him enough. I couldn't recommend him enough. Watch the show we did with him. I think I put the show also in our store as well, so you can go to our store and listen to that show. But dirty electricity is a big deal, and so it's really, really massive. And he doesn't deal with just dirty electricity, but EMF and 5G, and he'll help you build a whole Faraday cage for your home and sleep environment. It's pretty tremendous. With regards to dirty electricity, there are these things that we have in our store, and we love these things, and they're called the green wave filters. So what a lot of people don't realize is that in our walls, there's all kinds of electricity, right? There's just wires going everywhere. And in the wires, there are electrical fields coming off the wires as well as magnetic fields. And that's why when you go to, healing centers, a lot of times they'll say the first thing that you need to do with regards to your sleep is move your bed at least 3 feet away from the wall. And that's because of the dirty electricity in the walls. And what we're learning now recently is with 5G coming, that 5G is going to actually jump on to all of the dirty electricity that's in our walls. And so it becomes this effect it's crazy what's going on. And so in order to mitigate the dirty electricity in the walls, we use these green wave filters, and we like recommending these things because what you do essentially is that you plug these into your wall, and you have a meter here. You can actually get a reading as well before and after, and essentially it knocks it all the way back to almost zero. So you'd be shocked to learn how much dirty electricity is in your walls. That's not counting Wi-Fi. That's not counting the radiation coming from your devices themselves. That's not counting 5G, technology. That's not counting anything else. Just dirty electricity in your walls from the electrical wires that are there that are creating an electric and magnetic field that's affecting your DNA. There's been studies showing that dirty electricity also affects blood sugar levels, insulin resistance. A doctor I was listening to just recently, Dr. Martin Paul, was saying that this stuff opens up the calcium ion channels in your cells, and it allows over 1,000 times more calcium to enter into the cell than should be there. So the calcium should be free flowing in the interstitial fluid in your blood instead of inside the cell itself. And that's one of the things that dirty electricity does. EMF, 5G, wireless technology, that's what this stuff does. It affects you on the cellular level, and it reduces the voltage in your body. And so mitigating this stuff is really, really powerful. So we like using these green wave filters, and I think you will too. Put them in your bedroom, put them in your kids' room, and start there, and then work and get them all throughout your house is what I recommend. And two, you guys are probably wondering why I'm wearing these glasses. You may or may not. You probably heard me talk about them before, but I did a little commercial spot for them before. But these blue blocking glasses are my favorites. They're just incredible. The blocking blue light has been one of the most impactful things in my health and my journey, more so than any diet or any food related choice I've ever made. I was a raw vegan for 7 years. And this understanding light and mitigating blue light and getting full spectrum sunlight and understanding how light works and how it affects your mitochondria and your genetic expression and how it affects your, DHA levels, your voltage levels in your body, and the body's ability to pass electrons over the mitochondrial membrane. All of these things are affected by light, and all disease, according to Dr. Jack Kruse, 98% of diseases are caused by mitochondrial dysfunction. So the number one way to affect the mitochondria is by light. Other ways are temperature, vibration, sound, these types of things, temperature I said, but these are all ways to affect the mitochondrial health. And you have around 3,600 to 10,000 different mitochondria in every cell, and you have over 1 trillion cells in your body. So light is absolutely massive, absolutely massive. Here's a pair of the blue blockers I have. You can see them. I did a talk with Dr. John Bergman in his clinic, and I wore them there. I even wore them to the hospital. There's me wearing them again, doing an Instagram video, and here's another one where we're in the hospital. I basically wear my blue blockers for 3 days in a row in the hospital. Is that the same picture? Yeah, that's the same picture. So I'm really dedicated to this light thing, and nothing has been more beneficial for me than changing my light environment and learning how light affects the body. And so there's a picture of our newborns that were just born, and there I am wearing my glasses, my blue blocks. Got to do it. So it's really, really important to block blue light, and the best way to do that is through these blue blocking glasses that block all the blue light from hitting your eyes. And so you're going to protect your mitochondria, protect your nervous system, all that good stuff when you do this. And you're going to be protecting your melatonin levels too. And melatonin is the number one anti-cancer hormone in your body, melatonin. People think it's all about sleep, but it's not. It's about melatonin has over 4,000 different processes that it does inside your body, not just sleep. So these things are just massive. So Andy was nice enough to give us 10% off, to give you guys 10% off with the code EHR. So we did a whole show with him. You can see that show on our show page as well if you guys want to check that out. So I cannot recommend these highly enough, the blue blocking glasses. For me personally, if I was going to buy a blender or a juicer or a pair of glasses, I'd buy the glasses first. That's just coming to where I'm at now and what I've learned. I'd buy the glasses first because it directly affects your sleep, and that's so important to your health. Gonza says, if you could only take one enzymes or probiotics, gosh, probably enzymes, I would say. Probably enzymes, because probiotics you can get in food, and it would be better to take, probiotic rich food than it would be to take a capsule. So I'd take the enzyme capsule and then make my own probiotic kefirs and things like that. That would be my recommendation. Bob says, I have to ask you, that can't be your real name, right? Bob Dylan? That is just cracks me up every time. I love it. Thanks for asking her my question. You're welcome. Can you recommend a budgeted price electricity field meter? Yeah, you know what, Bob, it's interesting that when you get into these meters, it's Wi-Fi and dirty electricity and all these things are so complex that it's almost as if there are multiple different stresses on the body, and there's like thousands of different waves and different things you have to measure. There's electricity, there's magnetism. I mean, we use the tri-field meter, but I've been reading recently how that's not really that effective. I think the tri-field meter is about $100. We got it off Amazon. There's an extra sensitivity one too, but to be honest, if you really want to dial in and get an understanding of your environment, I mean, you really, really do need like thousands of dollars worth of equipment. And for me, I don't want to pay all that money, to buy EMF detecting equipment. So I'm happy to know that, I have a tri-field, and, I might buy a couple more other small ones. I know lessemf.com has a lot of good ones as well. They're in our store. If you guys want to check that out, you can go to our store and see some of those. Jojo says, I seen you wear those, and I bought some too, but sad thing is I can't get on my phone and wear them because I need reading glasses, so I can't use them when I'm on my phone. Yeah, you know what, Jojo? I would recommend, they have fit over ones too for the blue blocking glasses. You're an animal, man. You're late to the game here, my friend. But Jojo says, yeah, so what I would do is buy the fit over ones. To be honest with you, in my opinion, I'm just collecting glasses now. There's different glasses for different reasons. Like I was saying in the Dr. Daniel show on the commercial, like we have these glasses all throughout the house. So you can put them in your car. You can take them to work and put a pair at work. You can keep some, like at your desk at work or in your room or in your bathroom. So you're not exposing your eyes to that 57 to 6500 Kelvin worth of blue light with no red or purple. So it's always available. So I recommend buying lots of different pairs of these glasses, and just having them all throughout the house, so that if you have to go in the garage, for example, you have a pair right there you can just put on real quick to block your light. So yeah, there's ones, I think Blue Box makes them where they fit over, and lowbluelights.com does as well. So you can buy those as well. Julia says, Bob Dylan, you can hire them if you are in the UK. Try the Healthy House Ltd website. It has a few types of meters. Okay, cool. Is Bob, are you in the UK? Healthy House Ltd website. Okay, that's a cool resource. That's for the UK. Bob says, I'm going to start with measuring the wires in the wall of my home. You know what you could do for dirty electricity, Bob, is in our store where we just mentioned the product for the green wave, you can go over there and buy the dirty electricity filter. I'm sorry, the dirty electricity meter. And you can buy it directly from Greenwave, and that is a product where you can actually test. I think it's like $100 for that. So if you go to our store and then click on over, then you can buy the meter individually. Let's see. Gonza says, does blue light come in through my skin too, or only the eyes? No, it comes on your skin. So in our skin, we have, I think it's called melanopsin, which are specific photoreceptors in your skin that are constantly being exposed to light. So when you're exposed to skin, this is the weird thing about skin, is like, if let's say you're laying on a beach and you're wearing sunglasses, your body from the photoreceptors in your skin is getting the message that it's daylight. But your eyes, the amount of sun coming in your eyes is telling your body it's nighttime. So they call these things like circadian mismatches. So you're starting to see me now wear full long sleeve shirts during my shows, because I have this fake light here that I put on me so that it's not totally dark when you guys are watching the video. And so we want to make sure that our skin is protected from all forms of fake light. The only light that should hit your skin, if you're really concerned about this, which you all should be, and I should be as well, is full spectrum sunlight. Natural sunlight should be the only light that hits your skin. Anything else is going to be damaging. And so, a lot of studies are now showing that blue light exposure through fake light is causing the skin cancers, and not necessarily the sun. So the sun gets blamed, but it's really the blue light that's causing genetic changes in your skin, and that's what's causing the skin cancer. That's why you see, like in Australia, office workers are getting skin cancers more than people that are outside in the sun. Or people are being exposed to the skin cancers in areas of their body where they have no access to the sun. And that's probably because they're being exposed to sun on their, fake light on their skin. And so it's really important to block the light from hitting any part of your body. Essentially, anything that we're doing in our weird, crazy world is not natural, and it's damaging to the body. So they call those photoreceptors in your skin, and you do have them. I believe it's referred to as melanopsin, and it definitely does affect your skin health and your body's ability to be healthy, as well as cancer processes as well. So that's why it's really important to cover your skin when you're inside. Basically, it's the complete opposite of everything we've been told. When you're indoors, you should be completely covered up. Your skin, your eyes, everything covered up. Wearing blue blocking glasses, no matter what time of day or night, if you're indoors under fake light, or if you are indoors and it's daytime and you have no lights on and natural light is coming through the windows, then at that time I'd probably not wear the glasses. But if you're indoors and there's any kind of light on, you should have your glasses on because you want to protect your nervous system, you want to protect your brain, you want to protect your DHA levels, your body's ability to create ATP. All of this is affected by light coming in through the eyes. And so that's why it's really, really important to protect your eyes. It's so, so important. You look at like all of these eye issues like glaucoma, macular degeneration, all of these things are caused by toxic blue light. And so that's why, I mean, we're looking at screens over 150 times a day. And the average person has like, I think anywhere from 5 to 7 wireless devices, bidirectional wireless devices that they look into all day long. So if you're looking at a screen, even if you're using the Iris software that we have in our store, it's really important to also protect your eyes with these glasses, which is what I do. And when I'm outside, it's completely opposite. You want as much skin and sun exposure without sunglasses on as possible. So it's funny because like the other day, I was with someone and they didn't have any idea about health, and we were outside. And it was just fascinating. I just saw how the conditioning of our culture works. We were outside and he had a hat on, full jacket on, and sunglasses on, right? And then when we came inside and there was all these blue light and it was just horrible blue light environment, I put my hat on, I put my coat on, and I put my glasses on, and like within 5 minutes, everything was opposite with him. It was like he took his hat off, his glasses off, and it's everything is opposite in our culture. It's very weird. It's so strange how everything is completely the opposite. So when you're outside, you want as much skin exposure as possible. And according to Nathan Walls, the show we just did with him recently, it's possible for your body to create melatonin locally. So that's a huge discovery. So what that means is, ladies, you need to get your boobs in the sun, and guys, you need to get your prostate and your testicles in the sun as well if you want to avoid cancers there. It's possible to create melatonin locally on the skin, which is crazy. I never knew that. So things you learn, right? Bob says, can you recommend any previous guests or other ideas for Bell's palsy and possibly Lyme connected with that? We just had a show. Didn't we do a show on Lyme just recently? You may want to look into Dr. David Steenblock. He's been on our show a couple times. We're going to be doing start a new playlist on our YouTube channel called, I think, Health Features or something like that, Health Tours. And we're going to go to different locations and just show people what they're doing. And Dr. Steenblock's only a couple minutes away from where we are now. And so he's at strokedoctor.com, and he's doing some interesting things with hyperbaric oxygen and stem cells combined. So you may want to look at him, Bob, and I hope that helps. Energy Woman says, I'm using red light therapy and it's helped hugely. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I have the Juve. You can probably see that in our store, and I use red light therapy. I also have another device too that I use, and I use it every night for sure because I'm learning, man, about light. That's why we have light, water, magnetism, and EMF in our store, because I think those are the two or the 4 different aspects of health that come long before food. That's why I use the red light therapy Juve every night. Or I'm sorry, not every night. I don't use it at night. I use it in the daytime because even red light can suppress melatonin levels too. So you want to make sure that you're just following the sun, use your light devices in the daytime when the sun is out so your body doesn't get any circadian mismatches. Gonza says, love your shows. You cover every important topic. Got my rebounder and love it. Nice. Did you buy a rebounder from us? Like a Bellicon? I hope so. Yeah, that's great. I love rebounding. Maria says, I bought a pair of the blue blocking glasses that go over the reading glasses. Love them. Awesome. Where'd you get those, Maria? I'm curious. I know that Low Blue Lights has a pair that you can get as well. And I think Blue Blocks does as well, that are available in our store. Yeah, Bob, I heard you say that about serapeptase and the Bell's palsy started. I think maybe I busted some biofilm and released something, maybe a connection. Yeah, maybe. Serapeptase. I know that's a really great enzyme to take. Gonza says, all those opposites in our culture are done on purpose. I know, right? Everything that this whole stage, it's all just theater. And everything is opposite, especially when you get into contract law and you start realizing the difference between public and private and the actual agenda that happens in the private side that's not talked about on the news, and everything else is just a stage. Everything else is just like a dog and pony show. So all of this stuff that you see out in culture and public is it's just smoke and mirrors. All of it's fake, and all of it's designed to keep you disempowered. And that's what it's all about. And so that's why, I mean, fear is the number one way to control people and to get people to do what you want them to do. And our show is designed to be completely the opposite, to empower all of us, to say that, hey, we have the opportunity to heal ourselves, and we have the power to heal ourselves. And all of this is available to us, and you don't have to be afraid of a medical word like a diagnosis. You have the power to heal. And that's what our show basically is telling everyone, is empowering all of us that we can control the expression of our genes more than we think. Maria says, "Hi, Justin. I've been here. I was just listening to the great information you provide for us. Thank you for your recommendations also." Well, thank you, Maria. I appreciate that. We do our best. We vet all the products out that we talk about, and, they're just there really to allow us to continue to do the show, really. I mean, that's really what the store is for. And to also give you guys good products, I mean, like, these are all products we use and endorse, and, but essentially, without the products, we couldn't be able to do the show because we would have to earn a living. So, it's called right livelihood, where you actually get to support good companies, people that you trust and know and support, offer good products to people. It's a win for them and for us, and we get to keep doing our show and helping people. So that's kind of, the best way about it, I think. And so that's why, the shows are free and everything's free. So Gonza says, "How do you filter your water?" We have like a 3-step process. One of them includes the 12-step or the 12-stage RO filter inside the store. So it's a beyond organic 12-stage reverse osmosis water system. So what we have is the water structuring device at our point of contact in our home. So when the water comes into our home through the pipe, it gets structured right there. And then that comes through the 12-stage reverse osmosis Omica water filtration system that's available in our store as well. And that's a reverse osmosis. It's actually beyond, because they remineralize it, and they pull out everything, and they add frequency and vibration to it. It's a pretty incredible system that Rafi's developed over there. It's a completely closed unit, totally contained, so no fungus or mold grows. I've never seen anything like it. It's my favorite. And so that comes out, and then we put that through the Berkey water filter. And so all 3 of those products we have in our store, and we love it. And we used to go get spring water, but then started learning about acids and acid rain and spring water and acids and stuff like that. So now we're doing this, and we love it. So let's see, Dr. Steenblock listed a couple times. Okay, cool. Yeah, so strokedoctor.com is Dr. Steenblock's website. Amazon, they have a clip-on one also. Oh, you guys, if you guys want to support the show, a cool way to do that, if I haven't mentioned this in a while, but if you are purchasing, products on Amazon, think about us and the work we do, and go to our website. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a link for Amazon. And if you just click on that link and then make your purchase, nothing changes for you. Everything's the same price, but we will get a commission, and it helps, support us. So we appreciate that. The trick is to remember, because anytime I buy on Amazon, I think, okay, who has an Amazon link that I can support? I think to myself, okay, and then, doing that. But the trick is remembering. So anytime I buy on Amazon, I always try to support someone. So if you guys could consider supporting us when you buy, all of your products there, that'd be great. Okay, kids don't learn any of this in schools, not even university. It's shameful. You know what, Gonza? It's interesting. I don't know if you caught the show that we did with Dr. Daniels before this show, but if you want to learn about schools and why the schooling system and educational system is the way it is, listen to that show. And I shared a 5-hour documentary with, what's his, John Taylor Gatto, and he was like the New York School Teacher of the Year multiple years in a row, and he finally retired, but he's written a number of different books called, I think, the underground history of the American education system and stuff like that, and so it's fascinating. It's a 5-hour interview, and like the way I get through these things is I sit in my sauna and I put it on like 1.5 speed. and I'll sit there in the sauna for a half hour every day, and then I'll listen to something on 1.5 speed. So that will blow your mind, learning about the school system and what's really going on and the ties to the Rockefellers. And man, it'll blow your mind. This guy is a genius level guy. What water structuring device do you use on your house? Yeah, let me find out, Bob, where it's from. I forget the name of the company. A really cool guy. Let me find out that for you. Yeah, the Wellness Enterprise water filters. That's the one. So we have the Wellness Enterprise whole house filtration system coming in at point of contact. Let me bring this up on the show if you guys want to take a look at it. This is the one that comes into our home. We should probably do a video about how we do this. It's the natural action, and that structures it. And then it comes through the Omica Organics 12 stage that we have in our kitchen sink, and that sits below the sink. And then we fill up a big glass bottle of that, like a huge jug, and then we pour that into the Berkey water filtration system. And then what we're going to start doing is this Vitalizer Plus here, and actually structure and vortex the water there. And so that's coming soon to our water system at our house. So that's kind of what we do. Yeah, it's really important. Your water is absolutely key. Like if there's one place to start with your health, water has got to be high on the list, because without water, we can't create electricity in the body. And without electricity, there's no voltage. With no voltage, you can't create ATP. If you don't have any ATP, there's no energy. If there's no energy, then the cells can't replicate correctly and start making weird, wonky cells. And then you feel tired and you get disease and all of that stuff. So it all starts with water and voltage and energy and frequency. And so that's why we talk a lot about these kind of subjects on our show. It's like, it's really important to be on board with this stuff and understand how frequency and voltage and light, water, and magnetism help your health and sustain your health. So, all right, I think I'm going to have to wrap it up. We've been going almost 2 hours. Urine Animal says, does it remove chloramines? Yes, it does. Chloramine and chlorine, it removes all of that stuff. The Omica does. It's an incredible device. I haven't found anything that beats it yet. But you know what? Just put intention in your water. Get a good water filtration system. I'd appreciate it if you go through our store, because we like, and use that one. But, if you find something better or different or something other than that, then just do something and start with your water. It's really, start with your water, and start also with your sleep environment and your work environment. Fix those environments, and then you can start working on your food and stuff like that. But, it's really important, because sleep, that's 8 hours a day that you're spending sleeping. So it's really, really important to make sure that time is optimized so that you're really healing at a deep, deep level. There's something too that you guys might want to look into called the Aura Ring, O-U-R-A ring. You may want to look into that. Let me type that in, O-U-R-A ring. And that is a sort of a wearable device, but what's good about it is that it tracks your sleep, but you can have it. It tracks your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system. And what it does is it gives you a full readout, and you don't have to have it on transmitting wirelessly at all. So you can turn all of that off, and it'll track your sleep. And that's one of the cool things about this thing. We're not connected in any way with them yet. Eventually I want to get one, and then if we like it, then we'll put it in our store if they offer that kind of a thing. But it's a way to track your sleep, and they give you all kinds of stats. There's an app that comes with it. So start with like your sleep environment. Start with your sleep environment. Start with your water. Start with blocking EMF. Those are big areas of your life to get under control, because those are affecting you on so many different levels that it's hard to even begin to imagine all the different levels that is affecting your health on. So make sure to optimize those areas of your life, and you'll find that you're a lot healthier for it. So let me just make sure there's no other questions. And are colognes toxic? Yes, colognes are very toxic. Very, very toxic. You can start doing some research into that stuff, man. A cologne that men wear and perfumes for women, very toxic. So I'd highly recommend not wearing any cologne or anything like that, because that's going to be getting into your skin. Then you're going to be smelling it, and it's going to be really damaging to your health. So perfumes, colognes, no dice. All right. Any other questions that you guys are coming in with? I think I might have to end. If you guys haven't subscribed to our show yet, please do, and please tag a friend as well. If they know, if you know of anyone that might benefit from some of these shows that we do, tag a friend and let them know. Or if you have a Facebook group or a page or something like that, consider sharing our show, because we want to get the word out to help as many people as we possibly can, and to understand that the power to heal really is yours. And if you are listening on iTunes or if you listen on Stitcher, please leave us a review and rate us. That would be amazing. I would really appreciate that. Maria says, thanks for the show. I learned a great deal today. Well, thank you, Maria. That's awesome. You're an Animal says, I avoid fragrance in general. Bad stuff. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because your lungs, you want to protect your lungs. You don't want to end up getting some kind of lung condition. And I did a whole show about how to clean your lungs in our archives if you guys are interested in that. But all right, guys, I think I'm going to close it out here. We love you. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks you for commenting. Thanks for checking out our shows and being around in the chat room. It's really a lot of fun. I'm super stoked to be with you guys. It's just a lot of fun to read your comments. And I don't know what it is. We've had the opportunity to really attract a great crowd. And, YouTube is sort of known for people saying weird things, but all of you guys are just so nice and so cool. And I just really appreciate you guys. It's great to be here. And finally, make sure to check out the Extreme Health Academy. If you haven't checked it out yet, go check it out. If you go to extremehealthacademy.com, enter in the code EHR14, and that will give you a free 14-day trial. Oh, and also, if you want a 30-day trial, I wanted to let you guys know too, if you purchase any of the products in our store, we'll give you a coupon code. So send us your receipt and let us know that you actually purchased through our store, and we'll give you a 30-day trial to the Extreme Health Academy. So, all right, Julia, Gnome, Maria, Gonza75, You're an Animal, Bob, you guys are awesome. Maria Rodriguez, you guys are great. So thank you. And Maria Ars as well. Love you guys so much. Join us on Wednesday, where we're going to be talking with Ann Fonda about the Annie Appleseed Project at 10:45 a.m. And she's a 25-year cancer survivor. So check that show out. It's going to be awesome. So really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you in the Academy. I'll see you on Instagram, and have a great day. And I'll talk to you very, very soon. Bye-bye.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog, or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only, and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse